found out about VO when speaking to one of the coaches at one of my children's football clubs. The reason I'd asked them about it was because that football club uses Pitch Hero to manage memberships and subscriptions. And when I was looking at Pitch Hero, I noticed that they have a video solution. So I asked the coach if that was something that he'd used, and he said he hadn't because they didn't have the camera equipment, but he knew of other clubs who used VO. So I took a look at it this morning, and and I have to say I'm really quite impressed with it. Like, if I was going to have a niggle about anything, there's a few little bits about the website that don't work particularly well. Couple of kind of GDPR issues, I reckon, around privacy on some of their request forms. But here to evaluate the product, not the website, which doesn't work so well on mobile either. And the other thing that I found a little bit confusing is actually just kind of some of the kind of product proposition and the pricing, which isn't kind of necessarily clear kind of how it works. So when you go through here, it talks about, well, you see that price kind of disappears there straight away, but once you do get to something, it talks about the camera being $8.99 but a subscription required, but nothing about the subscription. And then when you go down here, it talks about the streaming. It says from £13 a month, but it's not clear whether that is a subscription and can you do the streaming with your own cameras. That's not 100% clear. And then you've got the editor, for which there is a subscription of from £36 a month, but is that the same as this? Difficult to tell. And then so that's a bit confusing. But what I did really like about it was at the bottom it's got links to their ambassador program and to their distributor program. So the ambassador is just about, pretty much what it says on the tin. The more you recommend their product, and that being reflected in terms of the amount of cameras that you're able to sell, then they'll kind of give you a kickback as described here. So that's pretty good. And then the distributor program, I think is really interesting as well. And you can go and sign up for more information on each of those things, as well as book a sales call, and as well as kind of log in and create an account to have a little bit of a play with a demo, which I'm going to come to in a minute, which I thought was really impressive. So I'm going to chat to one of their salespeople a little bit later this afternoon, find out a little bit more about the offering. The offering does seem to be kind of quite soccer specific. I'm interested in looking at kind of how it works with other sports as well. So the website talks about it working with basketball as well, for example. And here's the American football page. But the American football page talks about this in the context of the VOCam 1 as opposed to the VOCam 2, which seems to be their new product. So I don't know whether the American football option is kind of specific to kind of VOCam 1. And while obviously you could go in and, and here we've got rugby game going on here, and it looks like that there's the ability to kind of draw on the screen in that editor. But then other parts of the site kind of make me think that the editor is just soccer specific. So not 100% sure how that works, and that's not necessarily clear from the website. And in fact, the thing that did give me the most clarity around what was actually going on was when I clicked on, I think, this link. Maybe it was this link here. Yeah, and request more info, and then on the request more info I was able to download the VO intro guide, and that's really wasn't necessarily the intro guide that I thought it might be in terms of a description as the editor and the camera and how it all works. It's more just a kind of sales deck, but it did have something at the end around how the subscriptions work, albeit the prices aren't on it, but then when you go to the pricing page, that does kind of make more sense in terms of what it is that you're trying to buy. Anyway, on to the actual demo that they give you access to. So I don't think I've looked at one of these. Let's have a look at demo. Yeah, I haven't looked at this one yet. So let's start here. So I click into this demo and the game starts. So what I find really interesting is this tracking up here, and I'm not seeing this one. Actually looks like you can expand that. So yeah, there's that expanded. What else can you do with that? Yeah, you can choose which team to show. You can show the referee as well. Just show one team or both teams. That's pretty cool. Oh yeah, here we go. The radar view is a 2D representation of players and referees. It helps you visualize the players' positioning and how they spatially interact with each other in real time. Yeah, what I'm really interested to know is whether this is available live. So if I was using this camera to stream a live game and controlling that, I think from the app, I'm wondering if actually you kind of see this live or whether this is kind of processed afterwards. And the other bit that I'm really interested in as well is the extent to which this is derived from the pitch being calibrated, which it must be to a certain extent, but when you read through the setup guide, it pretty much just says put the camera up and kind of press go. It doesn't talk about kind of doing any calibration. So I assume the camera must kind of do something in terms of calibration, probably just by taking set areas that it knows what the measurements are of, like say the penalty area, and then kind of deriving everything else from it in that way, which I know is similar to how Metrica do it. So again, looking at these options down here, that I can show the scoreboard. To show the scoreboard, I must confirm the match periods. So I'm not too sure why those aren't confirmed by default, but we will come to that in a moment. Yeah, there are a couple of other things as well, so I'm just going to turn the sound on. What I noticed in the other game was that the camera's not particularly good at shielding wind interference. So if this was a windy day, you'd get quite a bit of wind noise on the camera. I know that Frogbox, which offers a similar type solution to this for cricket, has a wind protector on the camera as well. When you're recording a game and streaming it live, which you stream that live through the VO website, as far as I understand it, and you need a registered login to the VO website to be able to watch that game, I'd be really interested to know as to whether you're able to kind of mix live commentary over the top of it too. I'd also want to know whether I could get rid of this VO logo down here as well, because I might not necessarily want that on there. Let's have a look at. Oh yeah, here's my interactive player. So we archive interactive mode on videos older than 90 days. So I'm not going to be able to see that here, but we might see if we get that in a minute when we look at the tagging, as that is quite interesting. So I think what I need to do in order to get the game periods is I need to confirm the match periods, and I've done that by going to this analytics section. First match period goes to 40:46, second match period goes from 52 to 93:06. So let me just kind of confirm that, and we're all set. And now, because of that, I've got my scoreboard up there, and I can choose to turn that on or turn that off. What I noticed earlier is that if I was to download this whole video here, which I've just started doing there, when it downloads it, it doesn't download it with the scoreboard, doesn't download it with this. It just downloads the video with the watermark. So yeah, and then let's look at the match details. So it gives me the score, shows me the stats, and shows me a heat map, and also I can make that heat map specific to a team or to a time period. So that's the analytics side of things. Let's just go back to the highlights. So what's really cool is that they use machine learning to identify various points in the game, so corners, free kicks, goal kicks, shots on goals, so on and so forth, and that those things are listed here on the time bar. So here's your kind of match momentum graph, which basically I guess is showing kind of possession. Yeah, that would make sense because we're in this half at the moment. And then I can then look at corners or free kicks or goals or penalty kicks or shots on goal, and that I can also look at players. Now again, there are no players listed here at the moment, so I'm interested to know how you get players in here, and if the players that you get in here in any way relate to the moving dots that we've got here on the screen as well, and then if I'm able to identify those players and even track them as objects, which I'll come to in a little bit. So what you'll see that I've got here is I've got 82 highlights that have been selected that I can use. None of them are kind of saved at the moment, and I can choose to either save all of the AI highlights, so basically the highlights that the system has picked out for me, or I can delete them all. Right. So if I say, for example, let's do a filter on goals. Apply those filters. I'm going to save those, and then let's clear that filter and go to download saved highlights. So these highlights are now being processed, but once they're saved, I can download all of those highlights as a zip file, and that's going to kind of give me all of the goals, again without the scoreboard as far as I'm aware, and without obviously the bar here. Let's say that I want to create my own highlight. Then this stuff is really cool because I can choose from the preset tags, but also I can kind of create my my own tag, and then I can create my own highlight. So I would create that highlight by selecting a tag and then using this to find the area of the game that I wanted. It defaults to a minute, but I can make that as long or as short as I want. And I've got either follow cam or interactive. So follow cam is just basically going to be the default view where the camera is just following the action. And I'm going to tag my own team in this and just say this player does a great turn. I can make this available publicly, or I can share it with other people in my team or with involved players. So I don't have those set up at the moment. Come to that a little later on. And I can create that highlight. So when I create that highlight and go back to highlights, you'll see that there is my highlight there with my comment on it. And it's preparing that for download, so that's being rendered so that I can download it. But let's go and let's just drag this play bar and let's go to here and let's create another highlight, and this time we're going to use the interactive one. So yeah, it's not letting me do that, so I'm going to switch to that and show you this in the other game that I was playing with earlier. So let's go to demo recording 2. That's this game here, and I'm going to select, let's just go here, I'm going to create my so the tag that I created in the last game, so the tags are universal across any recording that I've got. So anyway, let's create this one and go to interactive mode again. So what you'll see now is that I have got the ability to move the camera around and also zoom in. So let me do that, and I'm then going to add another keyframe here and zoom in there, and then I'm going to add another keyframe here and zoom out like this and create my highlight. And you'll see that that will take a little while to render because I've lost it now. Oh yeah, here, this one here. It's going to take a little while to render because I'm obviously using the interactive mode. But when I play that back, it will basically transition between those keyframes that I've added. And that I thought was really impressive. So yeah, here we go. So that's done here. So let's start playing that. And then at some point we should end up on the other goal. And then we'll zoom back from it. There we go. Right. So I thought that was really impressive. Yeah, let's go and create another highlight just to be able to demonstrate something else that we can do, which is to be able to add drawings. Now, I can put a box around a player. What else can I do? I can change the colour of my boxes. I can do lines. I can do arrows. What I'd be really interested to know is whether actually these boxes can recognize the objects around which they're boxed and then follow those objects around, which I think is something that you can do with Metrica. What I'm unsure of at the moment is the point at which these drawings actually happen. So is that my drawing there? Let's have a look. Yeah, it looks like it is. Yeah, so if I pause there and then add a drawing here, I'm going to change this to a colour that I can see more easily. Okay, yeah, and then say yes to that, and then let's add a drawing here, and then let's create that highlight. Go back to my highlights. So again, that is being rendered at the moment. Here we are. Okay, so there's my box. And it stops there. So I guess I have to restart it playing again. Yep. And then in a moment, it will probably stop when it gets to the next drawing. Yeah, that's right. So yeah, knowing around kind of object tracking on that would be useful. Yeah, the last bit to say is around actually being able to kind of use this live, which obviously I haven't seen yet because I don't have a camera, I don't have the app installed. I did read on their FAQs that it's not possible to kind of see highlights at half time, which sounds like that most of these highlights then get processed after the game has finished. What I'd really like to be able to know is if I can actually kind of tag highlights in real time, and where that might be useful is perhaps because I want to be able to kind of identify events that have happened that the AI isn't necessarily going to kind of pick up on. So maybe I'm interested at the point at which the opposition starts to kind of warm certain substitutes up, because that gives me some idea as to when those substitutes might be introduced to the field of play, and it might be useful to be able to create a tag and a highlight around that. And then in terms of all of that tag data and these analytics, I'd really like to know how I'm able to kind of export this as data in the same way that I can export the video as data. Because if I can get all of the player data here and that I can get other kind of tagged events, then potentially I could kind of use that to kind of build other applications. So for example, if I could create a tag called assists and then assign so yeah, let's do that. If I could create a tag called assist and create that tag and do that and say that's my own team and mention, say, one of my players, then maybe that's data that I'm able to export and use elsewhere. And I think that that's where this could be really powerful as a data collection tool. So I think that kind of covers everything that I wanted to go over at the moment. No doubt going to kind of find out quite a bit more when I have my sales call a little later. But yeah, in terms of what I've been able to kind of deduce myself, in terms of what they offer me as a potential customer to evaluate the system, I've got to say I'm really impressed with it. I think it looks like a great product.